In 1870, a 31-year-old man in Cleveland, Ohio, controlled 4% of America's oil refining capacity. By 1880, he controlled 90%. By 1904, he controlled 91% of oil production, 85% of final sales, and had created the template for every monopoly that exists today. His name was John D. Rockefeller. And the system he built, the corporate structures he invented, the monopolistic tactics he perfected, they didn't die when Standard Oil was broken up in 1911. They evolved, they spread, and they control your life right now in 2025. The gasoline you pump, the drugs you buy, the tech platforms you use, the food you eat, the banks you borrow from, every single one uses the Rockefeller playbook. Vertical integration, horizontal consolidation, regulatory capture, tax-exempt foundations that shape policy, and market dominance so complete that competition becomes impossible. Rockefeller didn't just build an oil empire, he built the architecture of modern corporate control. And you cannot escape it. Because the system isn't Standard Oil. The system is the method. And that method has been replicated by every dominant corporation for 150 years. Amazon uses it, Google uses it, Pfizer uses it, JP Morgan uses it. They all learned from the same blueprint, the Rockefeller blueprint. Control the supply chain vertically, eliminate competitors horizontally, capture the regulators, use philanthropy to buy legitimacy. And when the government finally breaks you up, make sure the pieces you control are worth more than the whole. Let me show you exactly how Rockefeller built this system, how he used it to become the richest man in history, how Standard Oil's breakup actually made him richer, and why 114 years after that breakup, you still live in the world Rockefeller designed. Because understanding this system isn't academic, it's survival. The system is designed to extract wealth from you and concentrate it at the top. And once you see how it works, you'll see it everywhere. John Davison Rockefeller was born July 8, 1839 in Richford, New York. His father was a con man who sold fake cancer cures. His mother was a devout Baptist. This combination, the con man's ruthlessness and the Baptist's moral certainty, would define Rockefeller's entire approach to business. He would destroy competitors without mercy while believing God had chosen him to organize industry for the betterment of mankind. This wasn't hypocrisy. This was genuine conviction that his monopoly was moral because it brought order to chaos and efficiency to waste. In 1859, oil was discovered in Titusville, Pennsylvania. The oil rush began. Thousands of prospectors flooded into western Pennsylvania to drill. Fortunes were made and lost overnight. It was chaos, boom and bust. Overproduction collapsed prices, then shortages spiked them. Rockefeller, who was 20 years old and working as a bookkeeper in Cleveland, saw opportunity, but not in drilling. Drilling was volatile, risky, dependent on luck. Rockefeller saw opportunity in refining, turning crude oil into kerosene for lamps. That was the real business. In 1863, Rockefeller invested $4,000 in his first oil refinery in Cleveland. Within 2 years, it was the largest refinery in Cleveland. But Cleveland had 30 refineries. Competition was fierce. Margins were thin. Most refineries operated at the edge of bankruptcy. This is where Rockefeller's genius emerged. He didn't try to compete on price. He tried to eliminate competition entirely. And he did it through a method that would become the foundation of corporate America. Vertical integration. Vertical integration means controlling every stage of production. Most refineries just refined oil. They bought crude from drillers, refined it, and sold kerosene to distributors. They controlled one step. Rockefeller decided to control all the steps. He bought the barrel-making factories, so he didn't have to buy barrels. He bought tank cars and railroads to ship his own oil. He bought his own warehouses for storage. He bought the distribution networks to sell directly to consumers. Every step that used to be a separate business generating profit for someone else, Rockefeller brought in-house. This gave him massive cost advantages. While competitors paid 25 cents per barrel from barrel makers, Rockefeller made his own for 15 cents. While competitors paid railroads to ship oil, Rockefeller owned the tank cars and negotiated secret rebates. The railroads paid him to ship his oil and charged competitors more. This wasn't just efficient, this was predatory. Rockefeller could sell kerosene at prices that put competitors out of business while still making profit. And that's exactly what he did. By 1870, Rockefeller created Standard Oil Company of Ohio. His refinery capacity had grown from one small plant to the largest refining operation in the world. But he still only controlled 4% of American refining. That wasn't enough. So Rockefeller launched the second phase of his strategy, horizontal integration. If vertical integration is controlling the entire supply chain, horizontal integration is buying or destroying every competitor. In 1872, Rockefeller initiated what historians call the Cleveland Massacre. Over 3 months, Rockefeller approached every refinery owner in Cleveland. He offered to buy their refineries. If they agreed, he paid fair market value and often hired them as managers. If they refused, he launched a price war. Rockefeller would drop the price of kerosene below cost. His competitors, who couldn't produce as cheaply, lost money on every sale. They had two choices: sell to Rockefeller or go bankrupt. Most sold, a few fought, they all lost. By the end of 1872, Rockefeller controlled 25 of Cleveland's 26 refineries. He went from 4% to 25% of American refining capacity in 3 months. This was the blueprint: offer to buy. If they refuse, destroy them economically. And buy the ruins. This method would be used in every industry by every monopoly for the next 150 years. But Rockefeller wasn't satisfied with Cleveland. He wanted the entire country. Through the 1870s, Rockefeller expanded Standard Oil across America. He bought refineries in New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. He used the same tactics everywhere. Secret railroad rebates that made his shipping costs lower than competitors. Vertical integration that made his production costs the lowest. And ruthless price wars that destroyed anyone who refused to sell. By 1879, Standard Oil controlled 90% of America's refining capacity. 90%? That's not a business, that's a monopoly. But here's where Rockefeller's true genius emerged. He understood that monopolies face 2 problems. First, they're illegal. The Sherman Antitrust Act was passed in 1890 specifically to break up monopolies like Standard Oil. Second, they're hated. The public despised Rockefeller. He was called a robber baron, a ruthless tyrant, the most hated man in America. Rockefeller needed a solution to both problems, and he found it: the trust. In 1882, Rockefeller's lawyers created the Standard Oil Trust. Here's how it worked. Standard Oil of Ohio couldn't legally own companies in other states, but a trust could. Rockefeller created a trust that held the stock of all Standard Oil companies. 41 shareholders, all Rockefeller and his close associates, controlled the trust. The trust controlled the companies. This was the first major corporate trust in American history, and it became the model for every trust that followed: Sugar Trust, Tobacco Trust, Steel Trust.